One of the questions, I guess, to ponder, looking 20 years ahead, is do we need to teach differently in the world that is ahead of us? In other words, do we need to kind of rethink education? So we're going to be talking about that, right? Well, not we, not me, of changing course. And to moderate or to lead this session is Professor James Arvanitakis. Did I get it right? Excellent. I'm waiting for my raucous round of applause. Yay! Who is Dean of the Graduate Research School here at Western Sydney Uni. I'm going to stop talking so James can start. Would you please welcome James? I'm not going to try it twice.
Hi everyone, how's it going? Can we get a bit more energy? Hi everyone, how's it going? That's better. Okay, so this is a student-led panel. I think it's really exciting that we have three students here, three amazing students here. So please make them feel welcome. Obviously, they've been here all day, been taking part in the hacks, taking part in conversations, and obviously they're going to be a little bit nervous talking to the large room. So please make them feel welcome. I'd like to introduce Andrew Fong, Maria Yelovich, and Lakshmi, Logadasan. Yes. Thank you. Welcome, Lakshmi. So what I'm going to do, I've got a couple of questions I want to ask them, basically reflecting on the day, and then I want to open it up to you. So if you have any questions, I can't see anything because I feel like I'm being interrogated because the light's staring me straight in the face. But if you wave enough, either you'll trying to get my phone number or you're trying to ask me a question, one of the two, right? So look, one of the things about hackathons, one of the things about trying to do, have a successful day like this is that we're often limited by what we know, right? So let's begin by saying a question. Let's the question begin. Let's just say that a university didn't exist today, right? This thing called a university didn't exist. And one of the things that we decided at this hackathon or this day like this was to create a university, right? And let's just say we were brainstorming a university. What would it look like in 2 minutes? Lakshmi, let's start with you.
Okay. I think I really like this question, and I really like that we're inventing a university. I think that's pretty cool. The three of us, the four of us. We can include you. I think educational institutions reflect the needs of their community, and that evolves with time. I think an educational institution, if we were going to invent one today, I would love to shift the thinking of education as something that is community facing so that we can evolve organically with the needs that our community has. And when I say community, of course, I'm referring to, of course, ordinary people, but also businesses, government, everyone that comes within the picture of community. I think at the moment it's a bit kind of self-motivated, and a lot of students and universities, a lot of the conversation about education is what can I do for myself? And I think if we kind of shift the way that we think about education as something that serves the needs of the community, the present needs and also the future needs of the community, then that evolution of what education means and the kind of the service that education provides is more timely and more relevant.
Fantastic. Maria?
On the flip side, we are a community and we are placed in the community, which is fantastic, but we also have to acknowledge a university as a corporation. And a lot of my work and a lot of work that law students, I think, we do here is corporate accountability, and, how do we balance the regulation with the community and our responsibility to social and cultural values. And I think if a university were to start today, it be more female, it would be more diverse, it would be intersectional. We would have buildings that are accessible, we would have much more online learning, and the leadership would just be so much more engaged with our students.
Cool. Andrew?
Mate, honestly, that's one hell of a question, right? But for me, James, I think it'll very much look like today. Careless West, quite literally, right? It's provocative, it's engaging, and it's hands-on. You have people from all over industry, all over community come together and co-create the learning experience. And I think this is very much an educational process, whether you see it or not. And I want to highlight here, James, the notion of hands-on experience as well as the co-creation, because everybody can learn from a textbook, right? And that's no real measure of how successful you'll be like in community. And going back to the collaboration aspect, it's, you know, very much like the themes we spoke about today, diversity, you know, climate change and so forth. We all have a part to play. And I think, quite honestly, the development of future leaders is not the sole responsibility of universities alone. I think, you know, we need to have all levels of government. We need to have, you know, community leaders, stakeholders, so forth, high schools. So going back to like today, why I use this as an example of what universities will look like is basically because, so we come here, we talk about health, we talk about work, transport, resilience, and now education, the fundamental pillars of what makes up society. We create a perfect platform that allows students to, I guess, develop skills in critical thinking, advanced levels of, you know, lateral processing, because you're like, hey, damn, that's an issue I haven't looked at before. So how am I going to fix it? So you're collaborating and talking to everyone in the room. So you're bouncing ideas off one another. So that in itself generates, I guess, interpersonal skills, teamwork, and the list just goes on. Because if you look back at university since the 1900s, you know, here in Australia, and I think Andy, he spoke this bit earlier. I can talk forever, guys, so I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I'll wind you up now, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, no, honestly, I think these soft skills is what you really need. And whatever, I think it depends on the delivery method in moving forward with digital integration. But I think these soft skills, it needs that focus still.
Okay, so we've looked at the idea that it's got to be involving, it's got to be outward facing, it's got to be a lot more diverse. We talked about a university without walls in a way. What we're talking about, the diversity, both gender and cultural and intersectional, which is great, and also, as you said, something that's co-created, right? So, I mean, I know when I went to uni, it was none of those things, but I think over the last 10 years, I've seen a dramatic change, and I know that this uni, but not just this uni, I think a lot of universities have attempted to do that. So I'm going to throw another question at you. You're all in your final year, is that right? Yeah? Almost, yeah. All in your final year. And I mean, in the last 5 years, have you noticed a change in the way this university is run? Because I think this is the type of question that's been at the top of mind. Have you seen it play out in different ways, and how valuable has that been? So Maria, I might start with you.
My answer is definitely yes. And I think I'm speaking on behalf of all our students at Western Sydney and at all universities. We've seen changes, massive changes internationally with education and how our students collaborate and push the government and our governance in universities. Platforms like Respect Now Always and the projects, against sexual assault and sexual education and healthy and safe relationships, they have all been a collaboration now in the public sphere and the public discussions. My time at the university, I suppose, we've all we're the first generation of academy graduates, and the academy for Australia is the first thing like it, and we have it here at Western Sydney. So basically the way I describe the academy is we have our degrees, so law and international studies, and the academy degree that we get is the gaps from all our traditional degrees. It brings the innovation, it brings leadership, it brings critical thinking, and the fact that universities are starting to look at this forward change and at us students, being more than students, we're workers, and we're here to serve the community, we're here to serve our industries and our communities. So that's a huge change that has been in our classrooms and how the classrooms correlate and communicate with the streets.
Yep, Lakshmi?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with Maria. There's been so much change in the 5 or so years that we've been at university. I think during our time we've really started to see the penetration of the university walls. There's a lot more encouragement for students to be aware about global issues, to participate practically in the world through exchange opportunities and working in field across various industries. So I think that the community engagement and community awareness of students, looking at yourself as not only an academic in university but also as a part of your community, I think that kind of awareness has been brought into universities to some degree.
Okay, just before we go to Andrew, I'll be ready to ask any questions. But I want to tell you about a subject that I did a few years ago when I was at uni. It was called Australia between 1972 and 1975, and it was amazing time. It was when Whitlam was elected and stuff like that. And I remember being really, really excited about the subject, thinking, wow, what a great time of social change. And I remember walking into the subject, and it was a third year subject, and there was about 12 of us in that subject. And the academic who was teaching the subject, this is not at this university, it's another university I should add, walked into the subject, and he looks across the room at us, and he leans over and he opens up this manila folder, right? And it's one of those, those classic yellow off-colour manila folders. And he opens it up and he does this, he goes, and no word of a lie, you can see the dust coming off the notes, right? And then he starts reading word for word what's written in his notes, and that was my 3-hour class, right? And so he turned the most interesting subject into possibly the world's most boring subject. And by the end of the semester, there was only 3 of us left in that unit, right? And the only reason I stuck it out is because it was my last unit I had to do. So I mean, I suppose again we're looking at the massive change. I mean, that story where you talk about the universe having its walls and that that contrast there of my experience at uni. I mean, Andrew, what about your experience? Have you seen that breadth of range in your learning?
I think 100%. I think throughout the university experience so far, I think there's a lot more input by industry, community. There's this whole potential that we all hear about Western Sydney. There's so much there that we haven't even discovered yet. I think the Pro Vice Chancellor of Global Development here, Professor Yi Chen, the other week he was talking to, who were they? Bangladeshi judges. Yeah, so he was telling them how there's 160 odd cultures that reside in the Greater Sydney region. So Western Sydney region, I think that in itself is a massive opportunity for us to open gateways to do business with like the Indo-Pacific and more globally in that sense. And I think with that, there's this whole momentum of government thinking, oh, you know what, mate, you've got to really look into Western Sydney. Most of them, the majority of them are first in family. So that in itself, you just give them a little bit of guidance. There's, the world's your oyster. And I think for me, mentors have been a massive part, not just recently with, being blessed with, Lucy Turnbull and Christopher Brown, assisting me with my problems and my silly questions. But I think, with stuff here at the university, you just need to ask. That's the only catch, just ask. And I think you can really achieve whatever you want to achieve, yeah.
Thanks. Are there any questions from the floor? Yep, we have one here. I don't know if we've got a mic, but I'll give you mine. Hang on.
So my question is, I think, it was very interesting to see the University of Western Sydney kind of turn perhaps to face the market and become Western Sydney University. Do you think that Western Sydney itself needs to take that type of rebrand approach to turn and face the market or turn and face the community?
100%. I'm second generation Australian. My background is Croatian. My parents were born here out in Blacktown and then North Shore, and they all came down to Penrith. And I grew up in Penrith, and I know Penrith, And before I started university and when I graduated, I told myself, I'm not going to travel the world, I'm going to travel Australia first. I'm going to look at what Australia has. But when you start your degree and scholarships and things, when life hits, exactly, there's so many more opportunities. And what I found is, so I did one of my exchanges in Denmark, in Aarhus University, and what I found is, wow, how much I miss Penrith. I'm in this global city, it's amazing. But Penrith also has this. Penrith also has the green fields. We have the river. I live on 5 acres. Where else can you live on 5 acres and come home to your goats and your cows? So it's embracing the unique things that we have, and Western Sydney needs a rebranding. I do mentoring in Mount Druitt, and these students think, oh, but I'm from Mount Druitt, or I can't speak English that well. No, use that to your strength, use it, empower it, and grow with it, because that's where the rebranding takes place, and that's where the attitudes start changing.
I love that idea, and actually I think for young people growing up in Western Sydney, you don't really know about the stigma about Western Sydney. You're incredibly proud of where you're from. You love the food, you love the people. It's an incredibly warm and friendly place to be. I grew up for, I think it was about 15 years in Auburn, and my sisters and I used to go on our nightly walks at 11 p.m. down the main road, and we never knew. I mean, I hadn't heard of crime in Auburn until I'd gone to high school. you know. So I think it's important for us to just block out the noise and just be proud of who we are and what we have. And I think we live that, so we don't need to explain that to anyone else. We just need to put that front and centre of who we are and run with it.
You got another question out there? That was a great answer.
That was a great answer. I'm interested in your thoughts. So the beginning of today, we talked about, Western Sydney, and there's going to be incredible growth there. Barney might not like me for saying this, but I actually think that we need many, many more universities in Western Sydney. So I think there is a case to be made for universities working cross-institutionally, so that you might be a student at Western Sydney Uni, but you might also be doing electives or other units at other universities, whether they're in elsewhere in New South Wales or internationally. So I wanted to ask you, current students and future workers, when you look at Western Sydney, which has now turned to the market, what do you think of when you think of Western Sydney turning internationally and forming those international relationships that I think Western Sydney really needs?
I kind of like the idea of that. I think it's difficult to expect one institution to be able to offer every student everything that they want. I did exchange in Singapore through the New Colombo Plan. I was there for 9 months, and I discovered a whole range of electives that I wasn't given the opportunity to do at uni through my own degree. And that's something that you can only get when you kind of push the envelope and when you're given the opportunity to make take your own educational path. I think you can be grounded in one university, but if you had the opportunity to do electives in various other streams, even at various other universities, why not?
Yeah, I think Barney wouldn't mind that idea at all. And I think if you look at what's happening in, say, Westmead Medical District, I think what you're seeing is less competition and more collaboration. I know that Ingham's, which was one of the big funders, doesn't want to see this uni competing with that uni over something like heart disease. It's like, solve the bloody problem, don't solve the competition. Don't make it about competition. And I think unis are much more open to that we bring different skills. So. Yeah, look, I've only got a few minutes to go again. It's going to be a very short, sharp panel, but I might, unless there's any burning questions, I might just throw to you guys and ask you, what's the one really inspiring or provocative or empowering idea that you've heard today that you'll take away as students? Andrew, we might start with you.
Well, I think I was in this hack this morning, health, right? And we were in this discussion where we were thinking, how are we going to really allow the smooth transition for elderly people using the use of technology to maintain their quality of life, right? So there's this massive, this great idea of copying almost the concept of Airtasker, but making it Fairtasker for helping and having an avenue for elderly people to pull their bin out once a week, things that they can't do no more. And I think that way they still have they still live that life that they always know. But I think having that idea and the possibilities of technology and what you can do with it is very provocative. And I think now more than ever, everyone focusing on Western Sydney, I think it's very exciting to see what the possibilities. Yeah.
Fantastic. Maria?
I think the two main issues that we found today, one that really got everyone angry, and if anyone was in my hacks, what really pissed you off, we talked about collaboration and policy and the gaps in policy, and policy might be there, but it's the action that's not there. So moving forward for the next 20 years, it is about collaboration. It is about taking yourself out of your comfort zone, pushing yourself, pushing your university, pushing your workplace to reach out into another discipline and figure out how you can collaborate and communicate together to present solutions to the issues that we're all facing.
I might just touch on something that Darren said this morning. I don't know if he's still in the room, but he mentioned not providing solutions for the issue or to the issue, but being within the problem to find the issue and working with the communities or the organisations whoever you're seeking to resolve the issue for, but working with them. And I think that process of collaboration and being in the thick of it and understanding the aspects of the issues that you're trying to resolve. I like that idea.
Fantastic. Yeah, I just to finish off, I remember doing some work with when we were setting up the academy program. I went around, interviewed a whole bunch of people, and asked them, what's the ideal graduate? And there was a guy from quite a senior guy from PwC who I spoke to, and he said to me, I really want someone to be able to pick up the phone and ask the right question. And I thought about it, and I thought, what he's talking about is problem definition, right? It's about being able to define the problem, not just be given a problem to answer. And I think that's the challenge of today's and future universities, is to figure out what the problems are as well as confronting the problems. When I was in my 4th year at uni, I had barely learned how to grunt. But I'm sure that in comparison, you will see these pretty articulate, amazing, and inspiring young people. And future leaders, or current leaders, each of them are doing amazing things. So I think they've been fantastic. Please join me in thanking them and giving them a great round of applause.
Thank you.